Today, we're going to talk about some of the scariest true stories on Reddit. But before we get started, welcome to True Crime with Maneater. If you love all things true crime, including missing person cases, cold cases, and just the strange happenings of the world, you've come to the right place. Be sure to subscribe and turn on alerts so you never miss a video upload. Let's get started. So today, I wanted to shift focus and look at some cases from people themselves, people that survived these weird or scary incidents. I actually posted on my TikTok my most traumatic event as a young adult, so everybody should go check that out. It is pretty much a true crime story. It's terrifying. It is my own personal true experience. So let's move on into other people's stories. So one day, user Static Zapper was around 10 or 11 years old, and they were home alone because they were sick. So obviously they were doing what every kid does on a sick day. They were on the couch watching TV, just trying to get better. That is until the doorbell rang. So obviously the kid gets up from the couch and goes to the door, and at the door is somebody claiming to be the mailman. Obviously the kid's at the door, and this mailman, who is not their regular mailman, is like, hey, I have a heavy package and I need help moving it. And luckily this kid was super smart. So the kid is like, but where's your mail truck? And the guy was like, oh, it's just down the road. So obviously this kid knew something was wrong right away, and I'm sure their parents were really firm about talking to strangers and going places with strangers. So this set off alarm bells in their head immediately. So this kid starts to ask some questions. Where's the other mailman? And he knew the mailman because the other mailman always brought him a lollipop. The guy was like, oh, he's just visiting some family and I'm covering his shift for the week and whatever. And he kept telling the kid to open the front door. Basically, they had one of the glass screen doors in front of him, which was locked, and he had opened the front door so he could talk to this person and see them face to face. So he was like, listen, my mom can just pick up the box from the post office, not a big deal. And this guy was like, hey, it's gonna be a hassle, it's a big box, just come help me. And he was being really persistent about it. But the kid was like, hey, I can't leave the house, I'm not supposed to go outside, I'm not supposed to be opening the door in general. So finally the kid was like, okay, I'll come help you, but first I have to get my shoes. So he closed that door, locked it, booked it to the back of the house, and locked that door too. And then he ran upstairs and called his neighbor. She worked from home, she was a really close family friend, and the kid was like, somebody is at my door, they're asking me to come out, I don't feel comfortable, I think something bad's gonna happen. And then the kid goes back downstairs and stands by the locked door and is like peering out the window at this person. So obviously the mailman sees this little kid peering through the window by the front door, and he's like, did you get your shoes? Come out, let's go, like I need help with this package. This kid is obviously super brilliant, and he's like, I called my neighbor, she's much bigger and stronger, and she's gonna come help you move this package. And then this guy just turned around and ran away. So obviously the police were called, but nobody ever caught him. And of course, everybody wonders, did he actually trick a kid into coming outside? This next case is absolutely terrifying. So user Tadero posted this really creepy incident that happened to her as she was getting ready for a date. So one day she realizes that she misplaced a pair of earrings that she loved. And she mentioned that they're only like $20 Target earrings, but they were her favorite, and she wore them every single day. So she's going through her house, she's tearing it apart, she's looking everywhere for her favorite earrings, and she can't seem to find them. And she's racking her brain, like, where did I put these things? Like, I wear them every single day. They should be like on the dresser where I left them. And for the life of her, she just can't figure it out. And typically she had a habit of taking her earrings off at night and putting them on the nightstand next to her bed. So literally 3 days go by and she's still kind of focused on finding these earrings, and she has no luck. She wants to know where they are. She's like trying to rack her brain. How could she have misplaced them? But even though she keeps looking, they don't turn up. So one night she's getting ready for a date, and days had already gone by, and she's kind of upset that she can't wear her favorite earrings on her date, but whatever, she's still getting ready. And as she's waiting for her date to come, she goes back into her bedroom to get something last minute, and on her pillow are her favorite earrings sitting there. And there was no logical explanation for why they were there. She tore her room apart and she tore the house apart looking for them. So she was racking her brain for a logical explanation, and to this day, it still freaks her out to think about that. My brain instantly goes to the idea that somebody was in her house and watching her closely, and that is the most disturbing thing ever. This next story is why it's so important to trust your gut. So one night, this woman's walking around the city, and she gets the sense that somebody is following her. Obviously it's dark, and although it's the city, there's some lights, but she's still feeling really uncomfortable. So obviously she's probably really scared. She's looking over her shoulder. She knows that something's wrong. So she goes into the closest building she can find, and that's a hotel lobby. So she goes in, she tells the staff what happened, and she's like, can I just wait here for a little while just to make sure nobody's following me so I can get home safely? And the hotel staff insisted that the police should be called. I'm kind of skeptical because she didn't know if she was really being followed or if she was feeling maybe a little insecure being in the city, walking alone at night. She kind of debated it, but they were really, really persistent. Like, the cops need to be called, they need to come. So she was like, okay, let's call them. What could it hurt? So the police come, and this guy had already realized that obviously something was happening, so he kind of took off. So they pull up the security footage just to see if he was following her, and it turns out he was. So police go and look around for this guy, and they actually find him. So he was arrested, and something really scary happened after this. So it turns out he actually was the murderer of 3 people within those last 3 weeks. So had this woman ignored her gut and didn't go in the hotel, or even let them call the cops, she could have been the 4th victim. That is why it's so important to trust your gut. Your gut is never wrong. So when you get that feeling that something just isn't right, listen to yourself. So this case proves why it's really important to not pull over for just anybody. Ms. Danger 07 posted about a time when she was a 19-year-old driving home alone at night. So basically she was driving home alone. It was like 2 a.m. and she had just left her boyfriend's house. And she gets on this thing that she calls the loop. And basically what that was a giant freeway that looped around the whole city. So obviously it's 2 a.m. This freeway is deserted. It's dark, it's desolate, nobody's on this road because it's 2 in the morning. So as she's driving, she comes up to this old beat up truck that was actually hauling an old camper. It was only going around 40 or 50 miles per hour, which was about 15 miles below the actual speed limit. So not wanting to move at a snail's pace behind this person, she just passes them. She wasn't aggressive or anything of that nature. She just moved around them and went about her drive home. As she's driving, lights start blinding her in her rear view mirror, and this freaks her out. She realizes that person she passed is literally riding her bumper now. And obviously, this is forcing her to drive faster. They're literally riding her bumper. And then she spots it. Blue and red lights flashing on his dashboard. And instead of pulling over, she decides she's gonna keep driving. She decided not to take the exit to her house, which is really important when somebody's following you. Do not lead them to your house. So she doesn't take the exit. She keeps driving. She pulls out her phone and she's trying to get in touch with her older brother and her family. At this moment, she's not thinking about calling the cops. She's like, hey, I live in Texas. We have guns in the house. I'm gonna call them just in case I get home and this man ends up following me. But she couldn't get in touch with her family, so she basically kept driving, trying to outrun this guy. And she gets off on an access road thinking she lost this guy, but sure enough, there he is behind her again. And then they get to a red light, and she's going to turn right and he's going to go turn left, and they pull up next to each other, and she looks over and she sees this person, and then he just turns and creeps away. And so she hauls ass through a bunch of neighborhoods. She wants to make sure that she's not leading this person who is literally following her for quite some distance back to her house. She's weaving in and out of neighborhoods. She's making sure that he doesn't just appear again. So she gets home, jumps out of her car, she runs inside, locks the door, and goes and wakes her parents up. And they're like, okay, we need to call the cops. So they call the cops, and they really weren't interested until she told them, hey, he was pretending to be a police officer, and that kicked the search into high gear. Thankfully, she was okay. I don't think they ever caught the guy, but what's important about this is when you're driving late at night and those red and blue lights come on, you don't actually have to pull over if you're not in a well-lit, populated area. You can call 911, tell them what's happening, and they'll get in contact with the police officer. And obviously when you get to a safe area that's well lit and has people, then you can pull over. Also, it's important to note that if dispatch does not know who this person following you is, they will dispatch cars out, obviously, to help you. So if you're ever in an uncomfortable situation where you see those lights and you don't feel safe stopping, even if it's a police car, just dial 911 and let them know what's happening. This story is my absolute nightmare, and the reason you need to check your attics more than when you first move in. This guy's grandma was home alone and she decided to take a nap. She had an older house, but she was in a really safe neighborhood. It was kind of one of those neighborhoods where you felt comfortable leaving your doors unlocked, and I hate that phrase. I don't know why people say it, because I can't imagine a time where I would ever leave my door unlocked. So this house was a split level house, which means there was only like 3 steps to get to the next level of the house. So she was on the 2nd level, she's taking a nap, and then she hears her well-trained German Shepherd next to her. He's kind of whining at the shut door, and he's barking, and he's acting quite oddly. So she got up thinking maybe he has to go out, but when she got to her bedroom door, she felt a cold draft coming underneath. So she went to investigate, and she opens her bedroom door and she goes to the back of the house. And that's when she realizes the stairs to the attic had been pulled down. And she noticed that the back door was wide open. And since it was raining that day, she realized there was no footprints going in and up to the attic, which meant somebody had been in her attic all along. So she pushes the stairs back up just to be sure, grabs her dog, and leaves the house. And I do not blame her one bit. And that is why you check your attic more than once, people. Check it when you move in, and then check it every now and again. This next true story should be a reminder to everyone that when you're checking out a place to rent, always take another person with you. So this young woman named Amanda was looking for a place to rent. She had been dating her boyfriend for a few months, and they just didn't feel ready to move in together. So she was looking for her first apartment. She was moving from her parents' house. So she's on Craigslist and she comes across this listing. The title of the posting was Roommate Wanted, Females Only. And this didn't really jar her very much. She was a young woman and she wanted to live with another young woman. So she figured, hey, this is another woman just looking for another woman to live with. And the price was $225, which was an obvious steal. The occupant who supposedly posted listed was a 23-year-old woman. She said in the post that she didn't want to live with any males and she was searching for only a female roommate. And she mentioned that the new occupant would have their own bedroom and attached bathroom, which really was ideal for Amanda. So Amanda was like, I'm just gonna send this email, see if we can get together, maybe I can see the house. And within 30 minutes, a person replied from the posting. They gave Amanda details about the house and they gave her directions there and said, you know, I work late, but I'll be home by 8. Stop by. So Amanda gets ready around 8 that night. She gets to the house and she gets to the front door. She notices on the front door though, there's a handwritten sign that says front door broken, go around back. So she reads the sign, she walks around back. She notices the yard is pretty unkept. It's weedy, there's tall grass. It definitely is not well cleaned up. So she knocks on the door and a 40-year-old man, pretty unkept, comes to the door. And at first she thinks she's in the wrong place. And so she tells him this and then he's like, no, I'm the landlord. I knew that you were coming. She's just running late from work. I'm going to show you around the place. So Amanda gets this kind of uneasy feeling. She's looking at this guy. He's very unkept. He doesn't look clean at all. She notices that only a kitchen light is on in the house, but she goes in anyways. And as they're looking around the house, she notices something really terrifying. There is no furniture in this house. Not one piece of furniture. So this supposed landlord is answering her questions and everything seems okay, but he really doesn't want to keep the lights on for long periods of time. And she kind of senses that he's getting irritable about this. There was only one room that he actually wouldn't go in and open, and he said that's the occupant's room, and he didn't want to invade her privacy, which made sense to Amanda. Obviously, that was somebody else's room. He didn't need to open it for her, so she kind of let it go. But as they're walking down the hallway and through the living room, she sees on the front door that it's actually boarded shut and nailed. It wasn't broken. So she's obviously like, hey, thanks for showing this to me. I'm going to be in contact with you guys. And she's trying to get out of this house as quick as possible. And then this guy is like, hey, I forgot to show you the basement. Of course, at this point, she is seeing all the red flags. She is terrified. He's like, hey, it's recently furnished. It would be a great rec room for you guys. And he opens this basement door and it's pitch black. He steps back and he's like, hey, ladies first. And then Amanda gets a text, which obviously this is a stroke of luck for her. She pretends it's a phone call. She answers. She's like, hey, yeah, you're here. Okay, I'm gonna go around back and let you in. It's a great place. You have to see it. And obviously she's pretending to be on the phone and she gestures to the guy that she was gonna go out back, obviously to let this said person in. Obviously this guy is looking at her a bit confused, but he doesn't say anything. She gets out the back door and she books it out of that yard to her car, locks her doors, and peels away. She gets home, she tells her mom and her brother everything, and they call the police. So they took her statement and then they went to investigate. And the first thing they noticed is that the Craigslist post had been removed. And eventually they got information about this house that had actually been in foreclosure for over 6 months. So nobody actually lived there. So the police obviously went in the house and they began investigating this place. The closed room that he wouldn't show Amanda was actually the room he had been staying in or squatting in. There's piles of dirty blankets and rotten food and empty water jugs everywhere. So obviously the police want to check out the basement and they're going down the stairs. And across there was a thin piece of fishing twine. And if you haven't seen fishing twine, it's really quite invisible when it's pulled out and from a distance. And this was at shin level. So if you were walking down the stairs, you get halfway, you wouldn't notice it if it was dark. And you would fall and hurt yourself. And other than that, there was really nothing down there, just some household things, tape, brooms, whatever. But after that, Amanda certainly didn't want to move out anymore, and she stayed living with her parents for just a bit longer. And I don't blame her one bit. And there you have it, some of the creepiest true stories on Reddit. But that's it for today, guys. If you like this video or any other video on my channel, be sure to subscribe and turn on alerts so you never miss a video upload. See you next time.